It's Friday, March 7th, 2019. This is your Daily Detroit. I'm Jer Stays.
And I'm Sven Gustafson. Today, we're bringing you a bonus podcast episode from the Detroit Shipping Company studio of Podcast Detroit, where the sunshine is streaming in through the windows. Jared, it sure is nice.
You'd think it's the middle of spring right now in here. It's beautifully warm.
But it's pretty cold outside still.
Yes, it is. Well, today's show will be very hot for sure, and that's because we're talking dining and drinking. Of course, whenever we do that, our main man, Devon O'Reilly, is here. He is our man about town for Daily Detroit, and we're going to do a roundup of the openings, closings, and stories to watch when it comes to all things gastronomic. So put on your dancing shoes, grab your drinking coat, and let's get started after a quick word from a sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you in part by Milo Digital. Milo Digital is a full-service digital marketing agency that engineers quality results through data and innovative strategies. Learn more at milodetroit.com.
So, as we mentioned, Daily Detroit's man about town, Devon O'Reilly, is here to join us, talk all about food. Devon, how are you?
It's great to be here. I've got my cold brew from just next door here, and it's going to be a great podcast.
Absolutely. Well, it's always good to see you and talk about things because you are our man about town. You go out and dine so that we don't have to because Jared and I, well, we love dining out. But
I'm too busy covering State of the City events and stuff like that.
With your 2-liter of moon mist.
Oh, Lord.
All right. So it's been a while. I think, man, the last time we talked was back in the 2018 calendar year in December.
Yeah,
right?
I think this is our first 2019 chat, so there's a few things to touch on and looking forward to it.
Yeah, things don't slow down in the Detroit dining scene, that's for sure. A lot to go over, a lot of new openings, which is what we will start with. Let's start with the news about Tin Roof taking over the old Chelly's Chili restaurant, that 3-story building over there right next door to Comerica Park. What do we know about Tin Roof?
Yeah, I think, Chelly's was a favorite for many, especially those of us who like to take in a Tigers game, a Lions game. They were mostly open on game days, but, you have to be honest, as someone who didn't go to a ton of them recently, it really wasn't open. Unless you had a different experience, it really wasn't open on non-game days.
I think I went to Chelly's Chili all once to meet some friends who were there. Frankly, I don't think it was ever. Let's be honest, it was never a destination for like.
Every time I tried to go to lunch for this place, it was closed. And I'll tell you, when I reported on Chelly's closing, that was one of the most divisive posts we had. Because people either loved Chelly's or they hated it. It went one way or the other.
Yeah, but you can't argue with the fact that they were rarely ever open.
Right. It was a game day drinking destination.
So as people who find ourselves either living or working downtown often, it wasn't somewhere that was really on your radar anyway. So my biggest thing when I saw that it was closing was, oh crap, it's going to sit dormant for a while. So I'm really happy and excited that, right away something's going in to fill it. This Tin Roof place sounds like exactly the type of place that it needed.
Do we think that this place is going to be open 7 days a week or just game days?
You know what? I bet they start with a broad net. I bet they start at 7 days and kind of close down to maybe, a few days a week or just game days, because I don't think it's sustainable. This is the type of bar I think I don't mean to say this kind of in a bad way, but it's true. It's more of a tourist bar, right? It's people coming for the games. It's Detroit tourists, which we have, a burgeoning tourism industry here downtown, as evidenced by all of the people from all over the world and all over even just the suburbs with their cameras and taking their pictures at the Instagrammable spots and all that. So I think it's a bar for the tourists. There's nothing wrong with that. It'll probably be packed on Friday and Saturday nights. Live music sounds awesome. For me, there's not enough live music downtown.
Yeah.
So having more live music will be great. And I think for what its niche is, it's gonna be great. I think they have an outpost in Nashville, which that's
it's a chain based in Nashville. It sounds like they've been expanding in recent years, especially around the Midwest. And some of the we've got a post on it on Daily Detroit. Some of the popular items: Dixie biscuits, Candy Pig, mac and cheese, Voodoo shrimp grinders.
I could see some potential in this place. I'm somebody who I don't like to judge places before I visit them. I know there's been already some pushback online around this place, which is it always happens with new Detroit places. But it's going to be right across the park from Buddy's. The new Buddies, and there's a lot of things happening in that area, so maybe it will be good. I remember the days of the music menu. I still fondly remember the music menu.
Yeah, no, I think, getting onto the Buddies thing too, that the idea of kind of casual dining spots in Detroit. I know people think of Buddy's as just pizza, but I mean, I don't know. I've been to several outposts, and sometimes I get pizza and sometimes I don't. But I think those approachable kind of family style restaurants are still very much needed downtown. It can't all be the newest place. Can't always be the coolest, trendiest place either. You know, we need a little bit of a diversity as far as the offerings.
For sure. And we'll come back to the new Buddies. That's on our list, but let's move on. Good Burger opening in New Center. Jerry, you put this one on here, I think, right?
Yeah, I've heard some people that are pretty excited about it. I'm looking forward to trying it. There's so much going into that New Center area. There's a couple things even I think that we're going to be talking about. And WXYZ highlighted as New Center and Milwaukee Junction being the hot new neighborhood. There's going to be that new food hall that's going to be down Grand Boulevard. You've got Kiesling that's doing really well there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yum Village, our friend Godwin Ihintugi opening up there. The things moving along there.
Yeah, they're moving along. As you know, getting a restaurant going in Detroit, especially as an indie, is a process.
Absolutely. And Baobab Fair, I think it's called.
Yeah, I think
Fair,
so, yeah.
Right. Also scheduled to open there. This just in, also moving downtown, Chickpea and the D, that tiny little restaurant window, strictly carry out on John R. right off of Woodward, has announced that they are going to be moving other side of Woodward to 110 Clifford Street, right next to downtown Louis. They're going to change their name to Chickpea Detroit, from Chickpea and the D.
I'll give it an endorsement. I've already been there, and it's great. The menu is different than the window, I guess you could say, that they had before. This place has some indoor seating, has kind of a walk-up indoor counter. It's Chickpea, just a P, so chick and then the letter P, which can be a little confusing if you read the sign because it's just kind of chickpa. But no, it's really good. They have bowls and wraps. So personally, I think it's kind of an improvement because I had been to the old location and I had a chance to go to this new one and I like it a lot.
So they have like dining in, obviously.
Yeah, not a ton, but some small tables, counter space. You can dine in there, walk in, carry out.
Is this mostly like a grab and go place though, like for office workers and things, or is this gonna have dinner service?
No, it caters definitely to the downtown office crowd, work crowd, lunch crowd. Things like that, which there's obviously plenty of these days, but it doesn't seem like the place that would be open for dinner. I don't think it's open past 5 o'clock. I could be wrong, but I think it's definitely focusing on kind of the lunch crowd.
All right, we promised to come back to Buddies. We got a trove of pizza.
Yeah, let's talk pizza
news to dig out here. So both Buddies and Shields, two of the big kind of standard bearers for Detroit style pizza. Are coming into the city proper. Buddies, of course, is going to take over the old Angelina Bistro spot right there in the Madison building across the street from Grand Circus Park, while Shields is going into the old Maccabees Traders location.
Right across from the DIA.
Yeah, which that location has had some really tough luck.
Yeah, it has been a hard one, man.
I think they suffer in a way because it's not. You can see it there, but I don't know. There's something about...
It's really on its own. I mean, that's the only thing in the building, essentially.
It's the only thing in the building. It's the only restaurant kind of on that block.
You think you could pull like the DIA crowd or the library, museum kind of traffic?
I think there's something about that building that it seems... you look at it and you go, how do I get in there? You know what I mean? I don't think it has its own doors. I think you have to enter through the building lobby.
No, you can enter from the front.
Okay,
you can enter from the front, but there isn't much walkway or patio out front.
No.
And so people don't realize that. And then I don't think, here's the other thing, and I hate to say this because I'm not Mr. Carr, but people don't understand how to park for that building, even though there's a garage right behind it.
Yeah, this is a car town.
This is a car town, and I think the new Shields would do well to be very clear with where and how people can park because that is a magic code, and people are willing to even pay for parking. If you think about here at the shipping company, there's plenty of parking, and then there's the parking right next door that's $10. That lot's always full, even if there's free parking around here.
You'd have to think for a well-known brand like Shields, though, that's a pretty good location.
That's what I was going to say is I think the fact that it is a well-known brand is going to help it. If anything can succeed there, it's something that people know. It's approachable. People aren't thinking, hey, maybe let's check out this new restaurant. I don't really know what, Maccabees was, but Shields is like, oh, we're getting pizza, we're getting pasta, we're getting, antipasto salad. The Shields menu, for anybody that's grown up around here. And so it'll be something that's very obvious and familiar to people. And I think if anything has a chance to succeed there, a place like Shields will.
Well, I still hold to my thought that unless you're a grab-and-go lunch spot for the downtown crowd, you still have to be a destination in downtown Detroit. There isn't the foot traffic. There isn't the wandering traffic outside of ball games. You must be a destination in Detroit of some sort. And you can be a destination for being cheap or best destination for fancy food or whatever, but you need to have some sort of brand and destination in order to make it down here.
Yeah. So staying on Detroit-style pizza, there's another Detroit-style pizza place being imported from Pittsburgh. It's planned for Corktown. It's going to be called Michigan and Trumbull. Now, this is according to Eater, and we'll put the links to these stories where we're referencing other people's stories in the show notes. A couple of Detroit area expats who lived in Pittsburgh opened this place up. They're apparently moving the restaurant to Corktown to, I think, Elizabeth Street. It's supposed to open this fall. It's going to have, their own take on Detroit-style pizza, including vegan pizza option and something called teeter fries, which are waffle fries with barbecue chip spice and cilantro ranch sauce, which sounds kind of interesting.
I mean, if you're going to open up a pizza place in Detroit, you got to differentiate yourself, right? Because there's so many of them, and there's so many of them that do it really well. So, when I think about kind of Corktown pizza spots, there probably isn't one that immediately jumps out. I mean, I think Ottava Villa does pizza really well. I don't think people think of it as a pizza place. I mean, I certainly love their pizza.
Is it not the kind of place you'd go to definitely carry out a pizza, although I suppose you could.
So, I mean, I think in some cases, maybe this place, is really going to hit a sweet spot for people who want to do more of a casual pizza place.
Yeah. Devon, you and I have both tried one of maybe the newest pizza place in town, at least in the city of Detroit, Moots, which is a New York style pizza place on Library. I just went there for the first time last weekend, actually, with the family. But give us your take, first of all.
Yeah, I was a little skeptical, again, because of the pizza. I live right around the Slices over there on Woodward, which is kind of an original.
Yeah, Jared and I like that place.
An original, just grab and go slice, grab a pizza place. So that was kind of my local spot. And I was feeling a little kind of, hey, who are these people coming in with New York style pizza? But you know what? It's way more than just a pizza place. The pizza's fantastic, by the way. So pizza is great, New York style. It's something a little different. But Moots is really hitting a few different points that me personally, I can really appreciate. It's got full bar service, so you can grab a drink there, grab a beer there, full beer, wine list. It's got more than pizza. It's got pastas, sides, snacks. It's open late. It plays good music. It plays Motown music. At least when I was in there, the customer service is fantastic. I have to admit, I know people talk about, kind of the service sometimes at some of these new places in Detroit can be a little questionable. When I went, we had the nicest bartender server who let us do some wine tastings, gave us a little aperitif of Campari after our meal.
Nice.
So fantastic experience at Moots's. I know that they're open really late for that weekend crowd of people coming down to party at the Belt and such. They've got a grab and go window that I think is open to like 3 o'clock on the weekends.
Yeah, for slices.
So you can get your pizza fix, you can get your slice fix even after a few cocktails.
I want to just sort of level set by saying that, like, I am a huge fan of the New York style pizza slices. As far as I'm concerned, I used to live in New York for a short time back in the mid 90s, and to me, like, New York sets the standard for pizza slices. It's like getting, a po' boy or gumbo in New Orleans or a street taco in LA. Like, it is the standard by which all other pizzas should be judged, in my opinion. I just love it. So I go in and I sort of have high expectations. I thought the pizza was very good. It's almost kind of like Neapolitan style in some ways, more than New York.
I'll give you that. I will say that. It wasn't. You're probably more familiar with that New York style. I mean, I've had it a few times, but I think you are right. I was expecting a larger pie with a much thinner crust. That's what I picture when I think of New York.
The crusts were pretty thin. It's got that very. I mean, New York style to me is like literally a place that's open that sells slices, right? And you get the slice, and they're hot. They're thin. They're almost slightly greasy a little bit, but they're just perfect street food for just kind of shoving in your cake hole, you know what I mean?
Your pie hole.
And they just taste delicious. Like you're not thinking about pizza, and then you walk past this place and you see them dishing them up, and I need one of those right now. That's what New York style slice is to me. So I almost feel like to properly judge the place, I need to try one of their slices.
That'd be
in
fair.
A way. Yeah. I agreed though that the pizza was very good. I thought it was a little heavy on the cheese, which I think is a little bit of
thing.
I think that's a little bit of a Midwestern. It's like a Midwestern heavy hand with the cheese.
It could be, and I'm a Midwestern boy, so.
Well, so am I.
No such thing as too much cheese.
It was good. I will say that it's not a cheap place necessarily. I don't know what they get for their slices. Pizzas will set you back, $15 or so.
Yeah, I mean that's Now, again, level setting, that's kind of standard rate nowadays to get a pizza.
Well, it's high rent.
Detroit.
They're in the Z garage building. I'm sure the rents there are high, so I can't really, but just to be aware. I mean, glasses of wine start at around $10.
Mm-hmm.
Cocktails, if you want a Negroni, that's going to be about $15. It's not.
Yeah, it's not a value prop there.
Yeah.
I think people should understand that.
Right. Our server told us, you were talking about the music. Our server told us that they've been trying, they keep trying new things. The night we were there, it was a Sunday night. It wasn't terribly busy. They were playing like kind of contemporary pop songs, a lot of really bombastic stuff. I'm not into it. I found it distracting and a little bit. Motown is great, but I was not into the soundtrack the night we were there, and that definitely kind of was a little bit of a drag for me. But overall, I
you went there with the family?
With the family.
And around what time?
It was Sunday night around 6 or so.
I was going to say, I can totally see that, though, as a place where, like, maybe not a family place after 8 p.m. on weekends, because it pulls that kind of party crowd from Queens, from the Belt, from all that. So I could see how, not necessarily maybe a little too loud and bombastic for families after a certain time.
So with all these pizza places coming on, Buddy's, Shields, we mentioned the new Michigan and Trumbull place opening up in Corktown, and Moots. Too much pizza? Or no such thing?
I guess we'll find out, won't we? It could be. I mean, I think if the places are differentiating themselves and there's something different for everybody, then no, it's not too much. But if everybody's trying to just copy each other and be the same type of pizza, you're going to get lost in the shuffle.
All right, let's move on past pizza. There are other things in the world, although few that are as important as pizza. Staying in that same part of town, you saw some new signage for the Brakeman.
Yeah, I mean, there's some action happening on that block. We had San Morello that just recently opened up, which is a fantastic new addition. And
you've eaten there.
It's an amazing dining experience. It's it's like you're. And I say this in the most complimentary way possible. It's like, you're eating in a New York or a Chicago or, in Los Angeles. You kind of feel like you're kind of out of the city type of thing. Not like a lot of things that are in Detroit or have been in a long time. So San Morello is a really cool experience. They just started a brunch menu, which is awesome.
Food's good.
Food's good. They've got a lounge there called the Evening Bar, which I'm almost already regretting that I mentioned it, because it's a really small place, kind of semi-secretive, I guess, but just an incredible cocktail bar spot.
And then I saw the signage up too, Brakeman, which is across the street. That's also part of the Shinola Hotel.
Yeah, it hasn't opened yet, but you can tell that they're getting ready to open. It's probably only a matter of time now, but it definitely on brand with the Shinola. It's got kind of the wood doors, the porthole windows. The signage is up. Brakeman. I think it's the goal there is to be kind of a beer hall, beer hall style concept.
Are they brewing their own beer?
I don't think they're brewing their own beer. I think it's more beer hall than it is brewery.
Okay.
But it'll be really cool to have it right there. Between Moots's and like Queen's Bar and some of these other places that have become really...
Right across from the Y.
Yeah, exactly. So that'll be a super welcome addition. It's sandwiched between 3 hotels, because now you've got Metropolitan, you've got Wurlitzer Building, and Shinola. So it'll be pretty welcome to have it there. A lot of out-of-towners. That place will start becoming... It'll have a real... not touristy feel, but kind of a traveler feel.
Well, very vibrant. I mean, because it's small blocks, narrow streets, and a ton going on.
Yeah, and they're doing the activated alleyway. And what do people say about Detroit a lot now is, well, on a weekday, the downtown gets super quiet. There's not a lot of people down there. Well, one way to mitigate that or add to that would be to have, you have hotels down there, and then there's that 24-hour traffic of people checking into hotels and people from out of town staying there. And so I think it will create a more kind of dense cluster of people just in that area eating and drinking.
And the other thing that adds to this is that new Hudson's Block, whenever that gets done, being right next to there, you have created a whole bunch of residents all of a sudden, because there's hundreds of units going into that bad boy.
Well, we'll have to see how it, what kind of a candle it can hold to the District Detroit in terms of competition.
Stop it.
Oh, wait.
Stop it.
Oh. Well, at least there's holes in the ground for the Hudson's project.
You know what? They've already wrapped off and started breaking ground on Monroe blocks, I noticed.
Yeah, that's exactly. I'll just leave it there. Exactly.
Uncle Dan is not messing around. He is getting it done.
Uncle Dan. I like that.
Unlike some other billionaires in town who shall remain nameless at the present time. Okay, let's switch topics and move uptown to the Avenue of Fashion, because another part of town where we're starting to see shovels in the ground and some activity. Binx Grill is, Jeremiah, tell us about that one.
Yeah, I'm excited about Binx because it's another eatery that is going to offer a variety of food that you might not get other places. And I also like that it's another eatery that's going to be African-American owned, which is pretty cool. They've been sharing pictures of their build out on Instagram. That's been really interesting. It looks like it's coming together pretty well. I like what's happening along the Avenue of Fashion there between, the folks over at Narrowway. You've got that new Bigby that's happening. The former 1917 Bistro, things are starting to happen over there.
Yeah, there's something going in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember all the details, but they're still getting things situated over there. Last time I peeked in the window, it was mostly to the studs.
Yeah, and that weird building that looks like an old farmhouse or whatever, where Motor City Brewing is supposed to open up a location. They seem to be making progress, if slowly, I guess.
Yeah, it seems slowly. I don't feel as excited about that spot being on the immediate horizon as I do between Binx and then also on our rundown Bricks.
Yeah, although before we get to Bricks, I will say that Motor City, we were just talking about pizza. They make good pizzas too.
They do.
Really good Mediterranean pizza. Had one of those a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, Bricks Wine Bar coming to the former, was that called the B. Siegel? It was the old department store there, right? Yeah, right on the corner of 7 Mile and Livernois. They've been doing a lot of work there. That site is basically, that's a big hole in the ground right now, too. It's going to be a while, but that should be a really interesting development. Bricks, of course, was open for a fairly short time over in the West Village, had a problem with their landlord, have been looking for a new spot, and apparently they're getting set to open over there, too. So that's cool. Another Black-owned business.
Great to see.
Wine bar, which is super cool.
I think it has the potential to become one of those hubs because open late, so you'll have a wine bar, charcuterie, kind of that lounge feel. I think they did a lot of events and things on the weekends and that sort. So it can definitely become kind of a cool nightlife spot in that area.
And most importantly, it's close to the UDHQ.
That's right. We can stumble our way out after a podcast and go enjoy the wonderful fruits of Livernois Avenue.
Right. All right, let's pivot now to some closings because there are a couple that I think are of interest. Neil Rubin over at the Detroit News recently had a pretty entertaining column about Genopolis, which is a long-running outpost restaurant out in Farmington Hills, 12 Mile and Middlebelt, I think, if I'm not mistaken. I've only been there once. It was about 10 years ago. It reminds me kind of the Buddies outpost over on Northwestern, which is not too far away from there. It's the kind of place you walk in and you see framed pictures, autographed pictures of famous movie stars, sports figures who have graced the place over the years. I think Genopolis is kind of a place, it's of a very different era. It was like a hot spot back in like the 80s when Farmington Hills was frankly kind of like the epicenter of a lot of the restaurants, like the best restaurants in the area and like the nightlife such as it existed. I mean, I think Neil Rubin even mentioned something about Playboy magazine giving that place a shout out back in the early 80s as one of the best single spots in America, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, so I wonder if places like this or a place like this is kind of like the casualty of the Detroit revitalization recently.
Downtown Detroit back in the early 80s was pretty moribund. There was not much going on. Not like it is today, obviously. Many of the good restaurants were out in the suburbs. People who lived out there definitely by and large did not come downtown unless they worked down there or whatever. So different era, Anyway, the Genopolis is apparently open for a few more months. The two brothers who own it are in their 70s now, I think. I think one of them is planning to open a new place in Brighton, although we won't get into that because we don't cover Brighton, really, do we?
I mean, it's in Oakland County, right?
No, it's Livingston County.
Then it's out.
Yeah.
A tri-county for Daily Detroit.
Right.
So like you're saying, so if you are a single person and you've got a couple of months left to go to Genopolis,
and you're a septuagenarian maybe or something.
I feel like we have to talk about the elephant in the room, which is appropriate, as that is the logo of the Eastern Market Brewing Company, because we're going to talk about Eastern Market. One of the longtime restaurants in that part of town, Farmer's Restaurant, has met the end. I would say half the Saturdays I went down to the market, I would have breakfast at Farmer's. That place was cheap and cheerful and
solid breakfast.
Yeah, very Detroity, which I love about it, and I'm sad to see it go. I'm glad to see the owners go into retirement. But I feel like this is kind of a harbinger of changes coming and already here in the market, guys, right?
Yeah, I mean, some people I know are kind of jumping to make this a negative story. Like you said, everything I've heard on the surface seems positive. The place was an institution. The owners, longtime owners of the place, seem to have retired. They seem to make a good deal on this, and so everything seems kosher there, but it does beg the question of kind of what is the larger picture of what's happening in the Eastern Market area.
And I think that's the question. It's larger than farmers market.
Right.
It's where is Eastern Market going with stuff? And you can see that they're doing work with incubators and things like that. We also know from reporting and being on the ground that some of their meat packing and things like that are actually moving to other sections of the city nearby, where the kind of like the expanded Eastern Market district, and they're kind of clearing out that area in the middle. And the question is, going forward, what is that going to become? Is that going to become lofts? Is that going to what is going to sit there? And in my mind, I feel like before we get to lofts or any of the fancy stuff, I feel like there's a lot of work that could be done and potential in turning Eastern Market into a true 7-day-a-week market. Because right now, outside of Saturdays, and special events, you don't go shopping there. There's a few places open, but it's not like having traveled to, I think about Terminal in Philadelphia. I think Reading Terminal, pardon if I get that wrong, but a few different cities I've been to farmers markets, they're like turning over on like the regular as a hub of food and things. And I feel like it could be really accessible. It could be an opportunity for city-based businesses to get their feet wet into things. I mean, food access is an important thing in the city. I've wondered, is Eastern Market missing the investment and vision to make something cool like that happen? Or is the demand just not there?
I think part of the vision is there. I mean, Eastern Market and Dan Carmody, they do a really good job of recognizing what Eastern Market can become. They have programs for food entrepreneurs. They have a kitchen there for local chefs and local food entrepreneurs to kind of test out things, to have access to a kitchen. So on a small scale, they are trying to do that.
Oh, I completely agree. I don't want to take anything away from the work they're doing.
But I know what you're saying. You know, they're also probably going to be coming up against some big development money from outside forces, you know, whether that be outside of the state or just outside of the city. And what are their goals? And I would hope that the goals are always to preserve the market part of Eastern Market. And like you said, there's plenty of places you can build lofts. And from what I've heard, the lofts in Eastern Market, the people who do live there, you can smell the meat, and it's not the best place, not the best aromas throughout the day.
Well, Eastern Market has talked a lot about wanting to expand and move some of those, like the slaughterhouses and some of the other just kind of more industrial sides of their operations further east into the neighborhood behind it, kind of, because there's a lot of open space in there. And
but you don't want to sterilize the market too much, right? It's still,
I agree.
It's still it's still a market, and so
it should be a working market,
right? And I hope that, like you said, Jared, the developers are thinking about how can this be a hub for food, for kind of fresh local produce, a hub for food innovation, a hub for food accessibility, and so that I hope. Nothing I've heard has contradicted that, but we will have to see.
But it also feels like another situation in the city where one guy with a little bit of scratch, I'm just seeing a trend here. You look at District Detroit, you look at Dan Gilbert, you look at various areas around town. One developer with a little bit of scratch runs the table because there isn't the competition. Like one person sees the hole, runs through it, and then builds a little kind of thing for them. And it's business. That's what folks do. But it also still shows that there's so much to go with the actual comeback with Detroit, because in any other city, like there would be 4 or 5 6 major landowners, people doing investments, things like that. It's kind of crazy that in so many cases in Detroit, one guy can run through an open hole and make something happen, when it should be something that there's a lot more happening.
I think it goes back to kind of what people say about Detroit, and this becomes a catch-22, is that one person or one organization can make an incredible impact on the city, for better or for worse. So that's kind of a blessing and a curse in a lot of ways, is that we've had some incredible individuals do some incredible things, some incredible organizations do some incredible things for the positive, but that also means that one person, like you said, can also impact a pretty important area like an Eastern Market on their own whim, essentially, just because they have the resources and money.
Well, and I've talked to multiple sources about this next point I'm going to make, which is there are actually outside bankers and the like that are a little bit nervous about Detroit because it's so districted. It's so separated, where there isn't truly like an integrated market like you say in Chicago or New York or Charlotte or other places. It's each major basically billionaire or millionaire can kind of carve out a section of the city, and there really isn't a market outside of that. And so it's actually keeping some outside investment folks from putting money into the city, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think it does. I think my only retort to that would be, looking at it from a surface perspective, is a lot. It seems like a lot of the people who have come from whether it be other countries or other states or other parts of the country, the projects in the areas that they've spent money in, they haven't really done much with it.
Not going to debate you there.
Where are we with some of the, we had this dearth of Chinese companies that had invested years back, and they ended up selling all their properties back to Gilbert and stuff. So,
you look at North Corktown. A lot of that stuff, there's huge parts of North Corktown. They're just sitting there, and those guys are going to make a killing.
Yeah. So it takes the right person. It takes someone who understands what Detroit is, what Detroit was, more importantly, and that's the type of person that you want developing these areas.
Wow, what an episode. Thanks, Devon, for stopping by the studio.
Great to be here.
Well, I wanted to make sure that we give some thanks to folks. It is International Women's Day. And to celebrate, Cheyenne Noserini, who does so much for us behind the scenes, well, she'd say thank you for listening, but she's not here because she's off today.
Thanks, Shy. We love you.
Absolutely. Thanks to Randy Walker on the Twitters and the social medias. Thanks to Nuri Gojai, our spirits advisor. Bob and Dave over at Podcast Detroit. And of course, thank you for listening. If you really love what we're doing, don't forget to stop by our Patreon page at patreon.com/Daily Detroit. Helps keep things going around here. So for everyone, I'm Jer Stayes.
I'm Sven Gustafson.
Take care of each other. We'll see you around Detroit.
You're listening to the Podcast Detroit Network. Visit www.podcastdetroit.com for more information.